Daddy, why is she selling bread on Christmas Eve? The single dad who did the unthinkable. Snowflakes drifted lazily through the cold December air as the streets of Maplewood glowed under strings of Christmas lights. Families hurried past with shopping bags, laughter echoing between coffee shops and toy stores. Inside a warm little bakery, the smell of cinnamon and freshly baked bread wrapped around everyone who stepped in. And standing by the frosted window, little Sophie, barely 7, tugged on her father's sleeve. "Daddy, why is she selling bread on Christmas Eve?" she asked, pointing at a small figure across the street. A girl about her age, bundled in an oversized coat, her cheeks red from the cold. She held a basket of homemade bread, waving shyly at passing strangers who mostly ignored her. Ethan, Sophie's dad, a single father since his wife passed away 3 years earlier, followed her gaze. His chest tightened. The girl stood beside a cardboard sign that read, "Fresh bread, please help my mom." He swallowed hard. "Maybe she's helping her mom, sweetheart," he said softly. But even as the words left his mouth, guilt prickled his conscience. He remembered the winter he had nothing but canned soup and borrowed blankets for Sophie. The year he almost gave up. Sophie's big blue eyes didn't move from the window. "But Daddy, it's Christmas Eve. Shouldn't she be home?" Ethan looked at his daughter. The same daughter who had taught him what hope looked like when everything fell apart, and something stirred inside him. He knew what he had to do. They crossed the street together, snow crunching under their boots. The little girl looked up, startled but polite. "Hi there," Ethan said gently. "That bread smells amazing. Did you make it yourself?" The girl nodded shyly. "Me and my mom. We needed to sell a few more so we can buy her medicine." Sophie's face fell. "Is your mom sick?" "Yeah," the girl said quietly. "She got really tired this year. But she says if we can sell enough bread, she'll be okay by Christmas." Ethan knelt down so he was eye level with her. "How much for all of them?" Her eyes widened. "All of them?" He smiled. "All of them." The girl hesitated, glancing down at her small basket. "That's 20 loaves. It's a lot." Ethan reached into his wallet. He didn't have much. Christmas shopping had drained his savings. But he pulled out the last $200 he'd been saving for the new watch he'd wanted for months. He pressed the bills into her mittened hand. "Merry Christmas," he said softly. The girl's lip trembled. "Sir, I can't." "Yes, you can," he interrupted kindly. "Just promise me you'll go home and stay warm with your mom tonight, okay?" She nodded through tears, whispering, "Thank you. Thank you so much." Back at home, Sophie and Ethan placed the loaves on the kitchen counter. She looked up at him curiously. "Daddy, you gave her all your money. What about your Christmas gift?" Ethan smiled faintly, brushing a snowflake from her hair. "Sweetheart, sometimes the best gifts aren't the ones we get. They're the ones we give." Sophie tilted her head. "So we helped Santa tonight?" He laughed softly. "Something like that." They spent the evening wrapping the bread in red ribbons, adding handwritten notes that said, "Made with love, Merry Christmas." Then, at Sophie's idea, they walked through the neighborhood, leaving a loaf on each doorstep of families who couldn't afford much that year. By midnight, their basket was empty, but their hearts were full. The next morning, Christmas dawned bright and peaceful. As Ethan poured coffee, someone knocked on the door. He opened it to find the little bread girl, this time with her mother, who stood weak but smiling, holding a small wrapped package. "I wanted to thank you," the woman said, her voice trembling. "Your kindness paid for my medicine. You didn't just save Christmas, you probably saved my life." She handed him the box. Inside was a tiny, hand-carved wooden angel. "My late husband made it before he passed. I want you to have it." Ethan blinked away tears. "Ma'am, I can't accept this." But she smiled. "You already did enough by caring. Please, let it remind you that kindness never goes unnoticed." As the woman and her daughter waved goodbye, Sophie ran up and hugged her dad tightly. "See, Daddy? We did help Santa." Ethan chuckled through a tear. "No, sweetheart," he whispered, holding her close. "We just learned what Christmas really means." And as snow began to fall again, dusting the rooftops in white, Ethan looked up at the sky and silently thanked the world for reminding him that miracles still happen, sometimes disguised as a child selling bread on Christmas Eve. Of course, here's the continuation of the story, picking up right where it left off. expanding it into a heartfelt and cinematic second half. It deepens the emotional bond between Ethan, Sophie, and the Bread Girls family, revealing an unexpected twist and a beautiful resolution. That night, after the visit, Ethan placed the tiny wooden angel on the mantel beside a photo of his late wife, Clara. The carved figure caught the soft glow of the Christmas tree lights, and for the first time in years, Ethan didn't feel alone. He felt peaceful. Sophie, wrapped in her fuzzy blanket, looked up from the couch. "Daddy, do you think Mommy can see us from heaven?" Ethan smiled gently. "I think she can, sweetheart. And I think she's very proud of us." Sophie's eyes sparkled. "Then maybe she sent that little girl to us, so we could remember what Christmas is really about." Her words struck deep. Ethan sat beside her, pulling her close, realizing that his daughter had grown wise beyond her years. Losing Clara had been the hardest thing imaginable. But Sophie had become his light, and now somehow, the little bread girl had reignited something even deeper in both of them: purpose. A few days later, Ethan and Sophie bundled up again and drove across town. He couldn't stop thinking about that woman and her daughter. He wanted to make sure they were truly okay. When they reached the small, worn-down apartment building, the snow had started to fall again, thin and quiet. Sophie knocked lightly on the door. After a moment, it opened. The little girl, whose name they learned was Lila, grinned in surprise. "Hi," she exclaimed. "You came back." Her mother appeared behind her, leaning on a cane but smiling warmly. "Please come in." The apartment was small and tidy, the air filled with the smell of freshly baked bread and something else: hope. Ethan handed over a small gift bag. "Just a few groceries and some warm clothes for you both," he said. "Nothing fancy." The woman's eyes watered. "You've done so much already." "You didn't need to," he shook his head. "Sometimes we just find people we're meant to help." Then, almost shyly, she handed him a folded envelope. "Before you go, there's something you should see." Inside was a faded photo of a man in a mechanic's uniform, standing beside a garage truck labeled Henderson Auto Repairs. Ethan froze. "That's," he whispered, stunned. "That's where I worked. Years ago." The woman nodded slowly. "My husband used to work there too. He always talked about a kind young mechanic who stayed late to fix his truck one night, refused to take any money for it." She smiled faintly. "That was you, wasn't it?" Ethan blinked. The memory flooded back. The broken-down pickup, the exhausted driver who said his wife was waiting with dinner. Ethan had refused payment and told him,